Hello, everybody, to another post-game. This will be the last edition of the post-game show here at the Voice of College Football Texas channel. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel. Texas comes up short to Ohio State 28-14. Gerald, I'll let you hit on this one first. What are your what are the first things that come to your mind when you hear that score?
Yeah, well, one, I think the game was a lot closer than 28-14 really indicates. Texas was, in it right until the end. We finally got a third quarter touchdown, right, from Texas. They tied the game, and they were on their way to, trying to tie it again. And the red zone woes bit them in the keister once again, right? So, that to me, Texas answered the call in the third quarter. Not a lot of folks are giving Texas a chance. Most folks had this as a blowout, as a lopsided win. Ohio State scored 28 points in the first half of their first two playoff games, right? So Texas acquitted itself fairly well. The offense, once again, didn't play as much complimentary football as they could have, didn't take advantage of Ohio State, the third least penalized team in the country or something like that, killing themselves in the first half. And the offense could not get anything going. Texas could have had an opportunity to at least create a small margin there in that first half, but wasn't able to do it. But ultimately, I think it boils down to this was a closer game than the score indicates, but Texas could not do enough, couldn't get out of its own way in crucial moments, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, I mean, it was symbolic of what this season has been as a whole, and honestly, what Steve Sarkisian has been at Texas. Other than his first year at Texas, we have struggled in the red zone, and this game ended in the red zone. If you're able to execute 1-2 plays from the 1 yard line, you're in overtime right now, most likely. We're probably watching overtime. Now, does that bode well for Texas? Maybe not, because, again, that comes down to a tight area game, but we're still playing overtime, and it would have been exciting, and it allows Ohio State to make mistakes. And that's the thing, too. Texas played back and said, you know what, Ohio State, to beat us, you're going to have to go on 10-plus play drives to score a touchdown or get in field goal range. And a lot of the times they weren't able to do that. They really only did that twice tonight. And then the other one of the other ones obviously being Travion Henderson's screenplay, which we can talk about too. But I think this Texas team got the most out of what it was consistently. That's what I'm going to say. If they got better in certain areas, yes, they could have won the national championship, but that's just not who they were. Have not been that since the beginning of the season. They've gotten stupid penalties. We saw a couple more false starts today. They don't handle prosperity well. Travion Henderson, touchdown example. You get up, tie the game, and immediately give it right back up, and then you don't execute in the red zone. And I think the red zone thing is going to have to be the thing that changes going forward.
Absolutely. And that when you look at it, push comes to shove, that is one of the lowest offensive outputs that Ohio State has had all year. I think they had 21 in the Penn State game. Obviously, the Michigan game was weird, but when they play really well, they're one of the best offenses in the country. And this defense gave you a chance to win that game, right? There were opportunities all over the field for the offense. And, like you said, that red zone scoring, that last, this game really turned on that one play where it went from Texas driving in to score to handle it. And this would have been an unpopular call, but I would have much rather seen Texas just run into the teeth of that defense 4 times and try to big man ball it than that weird toss play that puts you in a situation where Quinn Ewers has to pass, has to roll out, right? Because it just didn't work, right? Ohio State had been generating pressure, especially along the outside, couldn't get it done, maybe run a sprint out in the other direction or something like that. That play calling sequence is going to haunt Sark, I think, probably until he's able to get back to this stage or beyond this stage, because that right there is where the game was lost for Texas in a game that otherwise I thought he called relatively well. Pete Kwiatkowski needs to get a ton of flowers for this one, right? Ohio State is one of the most explosive offenses in the country, and they had one explosive play in this game, essentially, right? That 75-yard screen pass, which, again, weird decisions. The Gilbo blitz on that, having pressure and prevent at the same time opens you up to some weird stuff. But ultimately, PK's unit got it done, and the offense couldn't.
Yeah, and it's funny because it comes down to, I think Steve Sarkisian and PK, like you said, called a good game, but it came down to 2 plays for each of them, or 1 or 2 plays for each of them. I think there was 2 or 3 bad play calls from Steve Sarkisian. I think there was 1 bad play call from PK, and that causes this loss. You have to realize you can get away with that versus a Vanderbilt. You can get away with that versus an Arkansas. You can get away with that versus Florida. when you're playing Ohio State, when you're playing Arizona State last week, because that game was closer than it should have been. You can't be doing stuff like that. And that's the thing that needs to get fixed, because it's been something that's happened with Sark as he's been here. Listen, he's a pretty young head coach when it comes down to, I don't think he's coached 10 years in college football overall. So I'm not that angry at him. I think he'll learn. Now, if he doesn't, we'll have some issues talk about that. But I think Joel Klatt brought this up. I think on average, when you look at like the Kirby Smarts, the Nick Sabans, and everyone who wins national championships, the 6th year is where they win it. So Steve Sarkisian, not there yet. This is his 4th year. He still has 2 years to get there. And that's when I'll start to judge him, if he gets to start past that threshold where most coaches, Urban Meyer as well, I believe, won his first championship in his 6th year. So we can definitely still learn. Let's jump on to this. So Quinn Ewers, I thought he played decent today. I didn't think he was great. Quinn Ewers is who he is. He's a B- guy who can he make some plays? You're like, damn, that guy's got high level NFL potential. Yeah. Then he has some other plays like, what the hell are you doing earlier in the game, running into multiple sacks? But overall, I thought he was pretty good in this game. 23 of 39, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. What is your perception of Quinn Ewers in this game?
Yeah, I think this was your quintessential, right? Bad pun, right? This is your Quinn Ewers game. I think this is exactly what we come to expect from him. You see those wow highlight plays. The first wheel route to Jaden Blue was like the perfect pass, put it in the perfect spot, just dropped a freaking dime. But then you see sometimes, especially early in the game, he's over processing, he's squeezing the ball, he's patting the ball, not getting the ball out on time. And that was a lot of why the offense couldn't get rhythm in the first half. And that, to me, honestly, like the game was air quotes lost on that red zone possession. But I think the game really probably turned when Texas could not capitalize in the first half. The defense forced, I think, 5 or 6 consecutive punts from Ohio State. And the offense just couldn't do anything. And a lot of it comes down to the offense was not in rhythm. Quinn Ewers wasn't reading the defense right. He was over processing. But that's part of that's kind of the Quinn Ewers tax, right? For those big plays, for those explosive plays, for those highlight reel moments. And, he operated the offense relatively well on that drive that ended up with the fumble, right? He made the reads, he made the throws, he found the right guys, and then ultimately was put in a bad spot where Ohio State made a play where Texas couldn't. So, like, this to me is a Quinn Ewers game. This is what we came to expect, and it feels like it ended the way that most of the Quinn Ewers career has gone to up until this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think he is who he is, which I think people are going to look back fondly of him, honestly. I think he's being judged harshly right now, and it's because who his backup is and the name he has and everything of that nature. And listen, I think Arch Manning has more talent than Quinn Ewers. I'm not going to deny that. Yeah. But he does not have the capability of running this offense as of this moment. That's why he was not the quarterback at Texas. I do believe just having him next year will help in the red zone, because again, you have to account for another guy running the football. We'll see what happens. His decision-making has been questionable at times. I know when he came to the Georgia game and a couple other times, you're thinking, damn, he also needs to hold on to the ball better when he does decide to run, because that's 2 fumbles now. So not loving that. Yeah. But overall, I'm excited for when it does start for him. But I think Quinn deserves a lot of flowers. I mean, I think he's for sure a top 5 quarterback in the history of Texas football. I don't think that can be even disputed. I think you could put him up as high as 3rd. So
if you look statistically, like he's 3 in a lot of the categories. He's 3 in a lot of the major statistical categories: touchdowns, yards. Again, he has as many conference championships as Colt McCoy and as many national championships as Colt McCoy as well, right? Now, obviously, Colt McCoy, class of his own, but like when we look at this thing pragmatically and we ignore the fact that Arch Manning is sitting behind him, like it really is frustrating to me, the opinion, the public sentiment around Quinn Ewers, because frankly, I'm just going to put a fine point on it. I'll put it out there. Like, he has been the best quarterback for Texas since Colt McCoy. I'll just say it like that. Like, there's no 2 ways around it. Like, he has been. And did he live up to all of the vaunted number 1 stuff? Did he live up to all of the fervor in the transfer portal? No, right? He did not come in and change the world, but he has been really good for Texas. He has had some highs, he's had some lows, and Texas fans, like, we wanted perfection out of Quinn Ewers because of what the expectations were. And I just don't think that's ever fair to expect that from somebody. Now, again, a lot of things legitimately criticized, but I also think we have to take a moment, pause, and really be pragmatic about this thing.
No, 100%. If you're re-ranking him after watching him in college, he's probably a high 4-star. That's probably what he is. And which is fine. I'll take that. If Arch Manning has the career Quinn Ewers has, he had a good career at Texas. Now, again, did he live up to his expectations? Probably not. And the expectations are going to be crazy for him. I mean, it's going to be insane next year. That's all I'm going to say. But we'll retire that for now. But let's get to the running game. So Trey Weiser, 17 for 46. Jaden Blue, 4 for 16. Not very good. 62 yards total for those guys on 21 carries. So it's about 3 yards per carry, basically. It's just not enough. This offensive line was good at times, bad at others. They got whooped a couple of times on pass protection. Other times they held up quite nicely. Again, just the inconsistencies and really not living up to the expectations of the offensive line and the talent that they have. I've said this and I'll continue to say this because it's going to be a fact. Every one of these guys is going to take a snap in the NFL. That is going to happen. And I don't think they played up to that on a down in and down out basis, other than Kelvin Banks, honestly. And Cam Williams actually played pretty damn well tonight too, for the most part. But like guys like Hayden Connor, DJ Campbell actually got replaced in this game by Cole Hudson. And
he got away with the flinch too in the red zone. In that red zone drive, he got away with the flinch. I want to call that out.
Yeah, so he is probably the biggest disappointment, honestly, out of everyone on the team. He has not lived up to anywhere near where his recruiting ranking was.
And that to me was like, and I think we should have caught the red flags. I put this in a recruiting eval I had of him. Like, that was a run first offense that he was coming out of. Like, pass pro is not natural to him. It's like, I wanted to see what that development curve was like. Maybe next year, fingers crossed. But like on the run game, Texas has been under 100 yards rushing exactly now 4 times this year. 3 losses and one that probably should have been Arizona State, right? Like that, the way that the run game goes is the way Texas goes. Period. End of sentence. Like that to me is part and parcel. If they can run the ball, the offense clicks. They've got the play action going, and Quinn Ewers is best at play action. Like his best part of his game is play action, fake it, do a little boot, and find somebody open in the middle. Like that is what Quinn Ewers does best, and they weren't able to do that tonight. They weren't able to do it last week against Arizona State, and obviously 2 times against Georgia. Like that. Story of the game for me.
Yeah, it is. And then it also didn't help. You had a couple of drops from your wide receivers. Not a great pass to Gunnar Helm, but he's still, if you ask Gunnar Helm, he should have caught that football.
Yeah.
And then Isaiah Bond, pulling out his best Arian Smith imitation of jumping for no reason.
Brother, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. He got out so hot out of the gate for Texas, and then he has just been, ever since that ankle injury, has been terrible. And I can't even say it was the ankle injury. He was moving well. It just did not play well.
And I don't know what his future is. There were reports of him not being integrated before the game, which I'm not sure what that means. But like, it sucks for that guy to come in with that level of accolade and not necessarily live up to that expectation.
Yeah, that's interesting because he can come back. I don't know if he will. Yeah, I'd like to have him back. I'm not going to say. I think he would deliver a lot to this offense with his speed.
I am not kicking him out of bed. That's for sure. No.
Yeah. And Ryan Wingo, I think you're starting to see it's clicking for him. He had a pretty good game tonight too. I don't know how many catches he had overall, but I thought he played pretty well. He had that nice reverse earlier in the game. Yeah, he had, let's see here. He had the 1 catch for 22 yards, but he also had the reverse as well. I thought he played pretty good. And then he also got held on that one that was not called.
Brother.
Whole handful of jersey. And listen, Ohio State was the better team. You're never going to hear me say Texas was the better team tonight, but there were some penalties that were pretty big. I mean, the Colin Simmons holding call that killed Texas on that drive. That was 3rd down.
Change the game.
Yeah. Earlier in the game, Trey Moore got to pick that, man, right through your hands. You jumped it. You played that perfectly. Will Howard threw it, and you just couldn't at least knock it down. I mean, your hands were right there. It'll be nice. I think he might come back because I think he's probably going to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. So if I were him, I'd come back because he was starting to click at the end of the year as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what these decisions are for the NFL. I'm also like, the portal window now opens for Texas, so I wonder if there's any other players that jump in. I don't anticipate them seeing much attrition there, but like, the post-portal window is going to be open for all the other teams. Texas hasn't been too aggressive, so I'm curious what that looks like as well. Yeah, and I agree, Corey. I think the right side of the line, I think, is going to be back. I think Texas is going to have to replace left guard, left tackle, and center. But we'll see if that's a good or a bad thing come next year.
I mean, left tackle it will be. You're not going to get Kelvin Banks. So we could be better at center and guard. There is a possibility of that happening. We're not going to be better at left tackle. We're just not. But we could,
No
it could
offense
be
to
the same.
Trevor Gooseby or Will Baker,
Yeah.
right? No offense to them. It's just Kelvin Banks is a whole nother level.
Yeah, 100%. And I thought he was hurt still. I mean, you can tell that he's not 100%. I think things are going to come out too. I think Quinn's not 100%. I'm going to be straight up honest. There's just no zip on his football. He used to have zip. I really do think he's still hurt. And by the way, gutsy as hell that run that he had. He looking at the first down marker and
Oh yeah,
you know what? F it. I'm going for it. I love that. That's another reason I'm not
dude's a
taking him out of the
competitor.
game. Yeah.
Dude's a
So
freaking competitor.
yeah, I'm done with the Quinn Ewers slander. It's hilarious to me. I watch people on Twitter. Drew Aller got like no hate and played one of the worst freaking games I've ever seen a college football play in a big spot. And Quinn Ewers played a decent game, like I said, like a B- game,
Yeah.
and he's getting way more hate than Drew Aller, who played like complete dog shit last night.
My one of my best friends is a Penn State fan, and he responded to a question with a picture of Drew Aller saying, "This means I'm not going to show up, and I'm going to embarrass you anyways." Is what his response meant, right? That like fans, you're right. Fans are treating Quinn Ewers like he's Drew Aller, and he's just not. Like it's wild to me. It's insane to me. I could go on for hours about that.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Like it really does have to do with the recruiting ranking, and I understand that. But at some point, you have to
Yeah,
abandon the recruiting rankings and say this is who this guy is. Now, is it
it
his
was 5
expectation?
years
No.
ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Reset
It's
your expectations.
exactly 100%. I completely agree. I'm glad we're on the same page because just some of the stuff I've heard just dumb. Defensively, let's talk about that. In my opinion, I thought the best player on the whole field, Ohio State, Texas, number 11, Colin Simmons. I think he was the best player on the field. I don't even think it was close.
Dude was a monster. I mean, and that's what we expect. That's like, I guess Colin Simmons and maybe Kelvin Banks are why folks have that idea of what a 5-star should be, right? Because you have guys like that. Kelvin Banks comes in a true freshman and is the best tackle in the conference, right? Colin Simmons comes in freshman of the year, creating all sorts of havoc. But like, we also have to shout out. You can't ignore my boy David Benda. David Benda made
Yes.
himself some money tonight. Interceptions, played really, really well in coverage, played really well in space. So yeah, I think I can't argue with Colin Simmons, but I have to like give David Benda some flowers. And Kirk Herbstreit figured out how to say his name. Big on him for that, right? Like David Benda has really been surprisingly good. And Will Howard, he played a solid game. He did not respect the Texas linebackers in coverage at all. He picked on Anthony Hill a couple of times, and then David Benda made him pay for it because he didn't respect him and he intercepted the ball. So like that was one thing that I think we'll have to look at in the offseason if there's something on tape or if Texas just hasn't been that good. I know Ant Hill has struggled in some coverage and spots, so maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I think Colin Simmons, David Benda are my 1 and 2, I think, on the Texas defense.
Yeah, Anthony Hill does a bad job of, getting up at the line, getting physical, and then dropping back into coverage. He's decent at, like, if you play, hey, this is your man, drop back into coverage, he's pretty good at that. But yeah, Benda was great there. Getting up on your man, dropping into coverage, reading the eyes, and picking it off. It also was a bad throw anyways because Manny Muhammad was right there. Like, I don't think that was getting completed either way. But yeah, he played great. And another guy, I'm going to miss him. He has grown a lot since Steve Sarkisian has been here. He's going to be an NFL player. He's definitely he's gotten so much better at just covering and dropping back like that. He was always good at coming up and thumping, but he's gotten better in coverage. So we'll miss him. I thought Jahdae Barron had a pretty good game. He kind of early on, wasn't great, but settled in nicely, played really well, does what he does. He's going to be a great player. He'll get drafted in the first round most likely, so it's going to be nice to have see him play in the league. And then a guy that's going to be interesting to me because I thought Taff had a decent game. I didn't think he was great, but I thought it was decent.
Yeah.
We'll see if he comes back. I think he should come back. I think it would also help this defense a lot to have a leader like that in the back.
Yeah, he had some weird run fits. He took a really weird angle on a couple of spots, especially that Will Howard scramble. He took a really weird that bootleg. He took a really weird angle on that. So like, there's been something off with it. I think part of what makes Michael Taff a really good safety in his role is how aggressive he is. But there are times where teams will exploit that, and we saw that last week against Arizona State. And I think we saw some of that tonight, where he took some weird angles, put himself out of position, and the offense feasted on it. So like that to me, I would love to see him back. He's an incredible heart guy. He's an incredible, and he's played way above I think what anybody expected from him. So like, yeah, I would love to have him back. Again, that's a decision we're watching because that safety spot, you're losing Andrew Makuba. You'll get Derek Williams back, I think, right? Hopefully from an injury, barring anything weird. But like, yeah, I think that's going to be something to monitor for sure.
Yeah, it was weird because I think like a month ago, on Texas reported Derek Williams was actually like suited up and like moving around in practice, which was crazy to say after an ACL. But I think he
Yeah,
should be ready to go by the beginning of next season because that'd be like over, I think, pretty close to a year at that point. And ACLs
yeah,
now
for
are
sure.
like 8 to 9 months, so I think he'll be
Yeah.
good to go. Our safeties are going to be good next year. Really, the only position I'm worried about next year is we need one more interior defensive lineman, and then we need a second corner like that I can trust. If
Yeah.
you get that, or even if Kobe Black comes along, this defense is gonna be damn good because you have Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill, and that's
What
gonna be
more
fun
do
to
you
watch.
need?
Yeah, I mean those two guys are gonna be really fun to watch. I think Colton Vosick played actually pretty well tonight too, so you're gonna have him. Ethan Burke, I
It's
think, will probably come back. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of talent on that defense.
we are looking at, and we're looking at back-to-back years where I am like, in 5 years, we're going to say, how did Texas not win a national championship with either of these two defensive units, right? Last year's was really good. This year's was better. Like, let's just put it out. Like, I'm just going to put it out front street. This defense was better than last year's defense. And Texas should have won a natty with that group. It's like, it is wild to me. Like, we're going to look back at 04 and 0, or 20, 04, 23 and 24 as years where we're like, how did Texas not win a championship with those defenses? Elite squads. And it should have happened. And again, that Sark is going to have to do some soul searching, I think, in the offseason to figure out why he turtles up in the red zone, why he gets too cute in the red zone. There's a lot left on the bone for that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, your season ends at the goal line for 2 years in a row. If that doesn't make you search and find out like what's going on, because at the end of the day, you're the common denominator. Like the 8 play calls that or 7 or 8 play calls, whatever they've been the last 2 years in the college football playoff down there have not been good. He
No.
has not had one call where I'm like, you know what? That was a freaking good call. They just stopped it. There hasn't been that call where I'm like, damn, that was a good call and they stopped it. I hate the jumbo shit. You bring that out. Why? We haven't done that the whole year and you bring it out then.
Like, I don't necessarily, like, in a vacuum, that's my preferred style of red zone. Like, I'm just gonna bang my head at you. I'm old. I'm pushing 40 at this point in my life. So like, that's how I like to watch football in the red zone. But like, Ohio State is one of the best red zone touchdown scoring defenses in the country. You know that. So like, how is that not like 75% of your practice time and your scheme time this week? Like, that is something that you suck at it. Like, it just is what it is. That's something that like I can't wrap my head around.
Yeah, 100%. It doesn't, and that's the thing. I don't mind you if you brought it out during the regular season, tried it a couple times, but that you can't just throw that out there for the first time. And then if you're going to do that, do it more than one time. Do what you did at Oklahoma last year, where you ran it like 3 times. Then you're like, you know what, we can't do it. So that's
die
what's
on that hill.
frustrating.
Die on that freaking hill. If you're going to do it, die on the hill.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Someone tweeted out, Sark, you ran with your third string running back, and then you did a toss on the second. Like, I just don't understand it, man. It is what it is. We miss CJ Baxter tremendously. I can't wait to get him back next year. Christian Clark would have helped too. Like, that's the thing. This is like, I think he probably would have helped out more than Jarrett Gibson this year. He's more of a bruiser and can catch out of the backfield more as well. So that sucks. And that's the thing too, talking about the two teams back to back, they haven't been complete football teams. They've always had like an obvious weakness. Last year, you could pass on us pretty damn easily. This year, we couldn't really run the football. You don't have to be great at everything, but if you notice, most national championship teams are good at everything. There's nothing you look at, you're like, damn, they're freaking bad at that. Guess what Texas is? They're really bad in the red zone, and they're really bad at running the ball when they have to. Two bad things.
And I think you have to play the hand that's dealt you, right? But we also have to, like, the asterisk of like, Texas lost 50% of its scholarship running backs in preseason and went in with RB1 as a 3-star guy that they kept. Honestly, like, they kept just to keep his cousin from decommitting. I'll say that, whatever. People are going to be mad about that, right? But like, and that's no shot at Trey Wisner, because Trey Wisner has been incredible for Texas. Incredible. Dude is as well above what he should have been. But like, Texas, like, that's the difference between having your 5-star running back and having the guy who's coming into the season as RB2, 3 at, like, right? Like, that's the difference. And I think hopefully Texas can bring that along. And it's that room was so snake bit this year. The guy that they signed mid-camp went out with a season-ending injury. Like, that's how bad the running back situation has been for Texas. Velton Gardner, I don't think, suited up for more than 2 games. And they signed that guy in the middle of freaking camp. Like that or the run game was snake bit this year. There's no choice. There's no other way to say it.
No, 100%. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it sucks. It was dead on arrival, basically.
Yeah,
We kind of gave it life support, did what we could, and I like Jaden Blue showed out tonight, and I tweeted that
yeah.
a week ago. Someone posted like, "How does Texas take advantage of Ohio State?" I said, "I think their running backs and pass coverage with the tight end and or their linebackers and pass coverage with the running backs and tight end can be exploited," and they did that tremendously. Jaden Blue had a really good game. That'll be interesting what he decides to do. I don't think he'll go to the NFL because I think he's probably like a fifth round pick, honestly, just because he's insanely talented. But I
He's
could see
gonna
him
test
transferring.
really well.
Yeah,
He's gonna test really well. So I'm curious to see. And again, I would welcome him back with open arms. He like as a complimentary back to CJ Baxter, he's exactly what this offense needs. Right? Like I would love to have him back as a complimentary back, but like we just saw the limitations of what that his style does. Like he is the lightning of a thunder and lightning. I think he and CJ Baxter would play really well off of each other. I would welcome him back with open arms. I don't know what that looks like for him. He's going to test really well regardless. Like whenever he goes to the combine, he's going to run real fast and jump real high, and teams fall in love with that. But you know, is his stock going to get any better by coming back for another year? That's the question they have to ask itself.
yeah, 100%. It'll be interesting. He could transfer. I mean, a lot of teams would take him. I think he'd be a really good
Oh yeah,
player wherever he goes. But yeah, we'll have I mean, most of the offense, other than the offensive line, is coming back. You're gonna have Ryan Wingo back. You're gonna have well, I shouldn't say most of it. Tight ends will be missing Helm, but we'll have some good players coming in there. I think that's probably the position I'm most worried about is tight end because you have freshmen coming in there.
yeah.
So I don't know how they're going to produce. You have Jordan Washington; he'll be a sophomore, but that we saw literally none of him. So I don't know what to expect from him at all.
Davis gone. Yeah, it's going to be
Yeah,
weird.
yeah, but yeah, I really hope Cam Williams decides to come back because I know he's getting mocked in the first round, but I'm going to let him know right now if he goes to the wrong situation, his career will be very, very short because he still has development, and the NFL does not do that anymore. They do not want to develop you. They want you. They'll toy around with you. They'll try to mess with some things, but if you don't hit in that first year, you're probably not getting another chance.
Not as a first rounder. No, not a first round offensive lineman. No, you drafted offensive lineman in the first round because you have a quarterback you need to protect today.
Yeah, and he's good. Like I'm not saying he's bad,
Yeah,
and he's got all world type potential. There's just a couple of things he needs to get better with. He's a great
it's
run blocker. It's mostly pass protection and just not committing
it,
false starts. That's
it's
it.
between the ears. It is. I think it's all between the ears for him, and an NFL offensive line coach is not going to deal with that. Like that's just it is what it is. Like
Yeah,
you have to be one of the elite guys for an NFL offensive line coach to deal with procedural penalties, and he is good. Like, but he is not going to be the best offensive lineman in the league as he comes in. And that's gonna get you fired.
yeah, it'll be interesting. I think DJ Campbell's definitely back because I just don't. Why would you leave at this point when you're going to be like a fifth, sixth round pick? That's what he's going to be.
If that, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got to come back. But overall, just I want to send out a shout out to these seniors because they went through a lot. They battled with this team. They got us to this point. I mean, Jade Barron, David Benda, Quinn Ewers, Gunnar Helm, all those guys. Non-seniors too, Kelvin Banks, seniors Jake Major, Hayden Connor. All those guys deserve a lot of credit because they stuck around. They believed in the staff. You went to the Final Four back-to-back years. I think personally, yeah. Do I think they should have gone to the championship one of these 2 years? Yes, I do. But overall, I'm not going to say we could have won a national championship last year because I think Michigan was a really damn good football team, and I think they probably would have beat us. But there's a really good opportunity if we win this game. I fully believe we beat Notre Dame. I really do believe that was the national championship game tonight.
Yeah, for sure.
But it sucks, but it is what it is. I think I'm very confident we will get back to a Final Four. Anything beyond that, I cannot promise, nor will I say on this stream until I see it. But I'm very confident we will be back to a Final Four under Steve Sarkisian in the Arch Manning era because I believe the Arch Manning era will be 2 years. So in these 2 years, we will be back to the Final Four. Can we execute when we get there?
I think that's fair. And to your point about like the folks that stuck with this program, like the people that got here in 2021 was Steve Sarkisian, 5-7 year, gutting out a win over Kansas State to get to 5-7, right? To win your senior night. Now to being frustrated that Texas was a few plays away from playing for a national championship 2 years in a row. Like there's time for that reflection. Like right now, I'm frustrated by the game. There's a lot that I think Texas left on the plate. But like when we step back and we really evaluate this thing again, pragmatically and objectively, like in 4 years to go from 5-7, losing to Kansas in overtime at home, or as regulation, I remember 57-56 to Kansas, right? We go from that now to how did Texas not beat the most talented Ohio State team that's ever existed? They have a 90% blue chip ratio on that roster. 9 out of 10 kids, 10 out of 11 guys on every huddle is a blue chipper for Ohio State. Like, that is one of the most talented teams of all time in college football. And Texas had a puncher's chance at winning that. So, like, when we look at it pragmatically later on, when we do our season in review and all of that, like, we can talk about it. But, like, tonight, Texas left a lot on the plate. The offense, once again, struggled in the middle, like the second quarter. They got a third quarter touchdown, so it's not all bad, right? But that, to me, is the story of the game.
Yeah, I agree. What are some things looking back on it in this game that you thought, like, what are some other key moments? Obviously, we know the Travion Henderson. We know the fourth down stop and the scoop and score. What are some other things that you look at and you think, damn, we let something get away there?
I mean, if you look at it, like, there was a streak from like the 7-minute mark, I think, in the first quarter to until Texas scored that touchdown on the long drive. Like, the defense forced multiple 3-and-outs or one first down and punts, and Texas did not do a darn thing with it. Like, that to me is the story of the game. Like, people are going to talk about the fumble and the interception at the end and the goal line stand, but like, if Texas can put up a touchdown or even a field goal in that run, we're looking at a completely different game state in the second half, and things are completely different. So for me, like, that is the big deal. Texas answering the Will Howard interception with a punt is another one where, like, you got to do something with that. Like, how do you go? Like, the defense gifted you something. Like, they gifted you something, and you give the ball right back. Like, those to me are the two moments where I'm like, if Texas can do something in either of those moments, completely different game state, and we might be playing next week or in 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. That's the thing too. This team hasn't been able to capitalize off of turnovers as well as the other teams have. When they get turnovers, they would score. When we get turnovers, we wouldn't score.
Yeah, 100. I mean, you look at the first Georgia game, right? Both teams turned the ball over a bunch of times. Texas did it on their end of the field, and Georgia capitalized. Georgia did it on Texas' end of the field, and Texas couldn't capitalize. Right? That the regular season game. That is the most frustrating thing for me, is a lack of complementary football. I cannot stand watching a defense that puts up a performance like that and the offense can't do anything with it. Like, and again, like, back there is the Texas defense played the best I think I've seen them play all year. They were dialed in. They were in where they needed to, outside of that opening scripted drive, right? You have to always like throw the scripted drive out with the trash and then look at how they do after that opening scripted drive. And they shut down the Ohio State offense for 90% of that first half, right? Like, and that was the big question coming in, is how does Texas slow down Ohio State? I don't know if they can, right? And they accomplished that. Pete Kwiatkowski deserves a lot of credit. And Ohio State shot itself in the foot in that first half, right? And part of that being rattled, right? That's not just on Ohio State making mistakes, but defenses that are playing aggressively, defenses that are forcing you out of your comfort zone, force you into those types of mistakes, right? You get frustrated. You start to think. You start to over-process. That's when offensive linemen false start. That's when you make a dumb play and you punch somebody in the face, right? When you're over-processing, when you're stretching, when you're pushing, because you're not used to that level of resistance.
Well, that's the thing too. People say, well, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Well, it tends to when you play better competition. Guess what? You're going to have more holding penalties. You're going to have more hands in the face. You're going to have penalties like that because guess what? It's harder to block those guys. It's harder to cover those guys. What do you know? You play better competition. Your fundamentals break down. Chevy won, whatever you say. I don't think that's true. Whatever. I don't really care. Ohio State fans, not a fan of them. I live in Ohio, so I got to deal with them. It is what it is. 8:30 2025 is coming. It is Jackson, and I will be there in person in that stadium rooting on Texas. Hopefully no beer bottles will be thrown on me, as I've heard that is what Ohio State fans tend to do, but I will be there regardless. And
very different looking teams. Come on.
Yeah. Ohio State's whole defense will be gone, basically, other than Caleb Downs.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what those two teams look like.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I honestly think like you want a real early preseason prediction from me. I think Texas is going to beat the absolute you know what out of them. I do. I just have that feeling. Would I trade this game tonight for that game? Yeah, I would because it's game 1 of next season, so that game doesn't mean as much nearly,
Yeah.
but still it'll be fun. And it's always exciting to play, and we tend to play pretty good football games, other than the one in 2006, where let's be honest here, Colt McCoy's first start versus the team that made the national championship probably wasn't much of a fair fight.
Yeah, not, and they had a score to settle from the previous year from the last second win. Like, but again, Colt got his revenge, right? So maybe Sark will get his revenge next year. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a good point. That is true. We got a little bit of revenge. Will be a different quarterback, but and that's the thing too. It will be. I don't have any idea who their quarterback's going to be. Probably Julian Sayin, but
yeah, probably
haven't seen him at all. And I mean, they're going to be missing a couple wide receivers, a couple offensive linemen, their whole damn defense. It's 2 completely different teams, basically.
Very different teams.
Texas will bring back more, but I mean, not much. Let's see. In this game too, were you surprised they went to? I know he didn't get to kick, but were you surprised Bert Auburn got replaced in this game?
No, I was not surprised in the slightest. Like you cannot let that be the deciding factor. Like that is just this game did not come down to a field goal, but if it did and they tried to Bert Auburn back out there after last week, I would have been beside myself. I'd have woken up my children screaming profanities. Like there's no way you can have a team that plays like that and trot the same kicker out there that botched not 1 but 2 game winners last week. Like you just can't do that. I was not surprised at all. And they already announced that he's coming back for next year. So I wonder if that announcement is going to have to be rescinded or changed or something. Because they replaced him. So I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. But we also don't know how Will Stone is because we've never seen him take a kick. So
2 extra points, 2 for 2 though.
Yeah, true. So I have no idea. And yeah, some decisions going to have to be made there. Oh, shout out. Michael Kern, best game of the year. He was phenomenal tonight.
I can't be mad at it. I mean, the guy showed up when Texas needed him to. So good on him. We've talked a lot of bad about Michael Kern this year. So we have to give him his flowers when he plays well.
Maybe, it's funny because they brought in Jack Borgmeister. I don't know how you pronounce his last name, from Utah. And they talked about him. He'd be just like a 1-year guy, go off to the NFL and mentor Michael Kern. I wonder if he's already doing that because literally when he committed, there has been a change and Michael Kern has been better. So I don't know if it's the pressure of adding someone. It could be literally this guy's mentoring him. Hey, you're doing this, do this, and it's worked. I don't know.
I mean, a lot of those guys are already involved. You saw Lance Jackson on the sideline in a couple of spots. By the way, that guy looks the part. Like I'm excited to see him in the spring. But yeah, big ups to him. He did something. I didn't think he had it in him. He's got it in him.
Yeah. Also, Silas Bolden, I'm gonna miss you, but you're gonna save me about 37 heart attacks, maybe 7 or 9 strokes. I don't know. How many times are you gonna catch the ball, go for a run, and then fumble when someone touches you?
It's the Bolden tax. I think like there's like for the exciting place for him cracking one off. It's like, oh, but I'm also going to have you clinch up for the entire time I'm holding the ball. I don't know. Maybe it's good for your core. I don't know.
Yeah, it sucks too because I don't think he was utilized enough. I think you saw that at all at Texas. It never made sense to me. Whereas Matthew Golden, every ounce of juice was squeezed from that orange. Like we got everything we got from Matthew Golden that should have been gotten. I don't think that was the case with Silas Bolden. I'm going to be straight up honest. Like that play today where he catches it, breaks a tackle, goes for another 10 yards. I felt like he could have been doing that all season. He just didn't get the opportunity.
Yeah, he should have been more of a weapon. I almost wanted him like in a Keelan Robinson role, except expanded, where he's kind of just playing all over, kind of Swiss Army knife, a little bit coming out of the backfield, like not running the ball, obviously, but like kind of some swings and some. I wish Texas had done more with him for sure.
Yeah, I do too. It sucks. We won't. Maybe he can ask for another year. They're giving him away like crazy now.
They're giving him out like candy, man.
Yeah, we might be able to get another one.
I'm sure he had a hangnail or something.
Yeah, just say that.
Waiver.
Yeah, or he could transfer to junior college and then come back and play another 2 years because that is the rule, right? Like junior college doesn't count, so just go there, play a little bit, and then come back. Wow. But Matthew Golden, phenomenal. Like that guy is going to play a very, very, very long time in the NFL. I don't think he's ever going to be, oh my God, this guy's great, but he is going to be 10 years, 600 yards a year, 5 to 6 touchdowns a year, reliable. That's what he is.
Yeah. Yeah, he's reliable. He's made himself some money because I think it was a question whether or not he was going to be a first half ish kind of draft. But I think over the last like 4 games or so, he's made himself quite a bit of money. He played really, really well. Played through injury, came back from an injury in this game, and flashed even after. Was in a spot to make a big play with a bad throw from Quinn Ewers, but like. Dude was a baller. Dude was a warrior in a lot of spots. And honestly, what we got from him, I think we were hoping to get from Isaiah Bond in a lot of spots. So, I mean, I'm not mad about it at all.
No, I'm not either. I know when he came here, it was crazy to me. In my preview, I talked about how I thought he was the second best wide receiver on the team. I think he was the biggest get in the portal. I said that, and he turned into our best wide receiver. And there were big Texas publications saying, you know what, I don't think he's going to play that much. He's more special teams. And I just thought that was crazy. And right now he's ranked as the 8th best prospect wide receiver wise. Like he's probably going to be like the end of a second round pick for somebody because someone just loves the toughness. And props to him. I would pay him if we can pay him enough to get back on campus. I would love to have him. But I think we're going to go pretty young next year at the wide receiver room, which isn't bad. Like if anyone watches, I know this is getting ahead, but Khalil Lockett looks pretty damn good.
That boy is good. I was talking about him with some friends the other day. That boy is going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch him. And then Dalen McCutcheon, Jamie French. I mean, you're going to have a lot of young guys running out there with Arch Manning. I think the offenses will be more explosive next year. I'm pretty confident in saying that. I just don't know. Again, in certain situations, to me, Steve Sarkisian, literally every day should be just focused on red zone because this team could have made the exact same mistakes in every one of those games. But if they were the 50th best team in red zone scoring instead of the 106th best team in red zone scoring, there's a case they probably only lost one game. And that was the first game to Georgia. I think they would have beaten everyone else they've lost to.
And the advantage of being more explosive next year is that maybe you don't get tackled in the red zone. I don't know. Maybe just try to score from 40 yards out and not have to deal with the red zone anymore. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah. Well, the solution in 2020 for Sark at Alabama was have a freak at wide receiver and then score a couple freaks at wide receiver and then just score every time you basically pass the football down the field. That was the solution. Wow. That's the thing too. I think the Texas offense honestly might look more like the Ohio State offense of this year. A lot more explosive plays down the field.
Explosive plays on the field and the quarterback that can move a little bit more. I think you're probably onto something.
Yeah. Now, I don't think we have the explosivity at running back because, I mean, Travion Henderson's just insane. Like, he's probably as close to Jaden Blue speed-wise as any other running back in the country.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I think there's that pair of running backs. I'm trying to pull up the stats right now. They like having a pair of 1,000-yard rushers, which, by the way, small feather in the cap. I said that both of those guys probably would pass 1,000 yards this week. Did not do it. Texas held them both to less than 75 yards, which is what they both needed to get to 1,000. So that's a Notre Dame problem now. But yeah, they have a pair. I mean, not 975 yards apiece effectively is what they both have. Like ridiculous. And they're both gone next year. Praise whoever you choose to praise.
Yeah. Quinshon Judkins I'll give him credit, was a lot more physical than I thought he was. I didn't think he was that physical of a runner coming into the game. He was pretty damn physical. He blocked on that Gilbo one, ran it in down in the goal line. Definitely a really physical running back. And they needed that because honestly, watching Travion Henderson, I've always been unimpressed because he's not physical. He's just not. He's a burner, which is cool, but he's not a short down back. They found that guy. Quinshon Judkins is a short down running back.
Yeah. Money well spent. We'll say it like that.
Yeah, 100%. That's going to do it for this edition of the Texas Postgame Show. Again, Ohio State ends Texas season 28-14, sadly, so we got to wait 8 months now for the next real Texas football game, so that sucks. But overall, I think this was a good season. I predicted this team at the beginning of the season. I have it on my Twitter. I said Texas would lose in the Final Four to Ohio State. So I was right.
I had preseason. I had Texas 11-1 in the regular season, playing for the SEC, making the playoffs. Like they have reached not all of the goals that we set forth, because obviously, like the big goal is winning a national championship. But like, and again, we'll do a full like season in review. But when push comes to shove, again, I said this before, I'll say it again. If you had told me in 2021 when Texas loses to Kansas that if you wait just 3 seasons, you're going to be pissed off that Texas didn't make the national championship game. I would take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I agree. Again, you can have two separate thoughts, and we talked about this a lot on here.
Yep.
You can be proud of this team because of what they accomplished, but you can also be disappointed because you see what they left on the field to accomplish,
Absolutely.
which they could have. There are opportunities to where this team could be in the national championship right now, but they're not. And there's no one to blame. It's our fault, or the team's fault, and it is what it is. But overall, a good season. Texas finishes with 3 losses to, I think, to 2 top 5 teams in the country. I think Georgia's the top 5 team. I think the top 5 teams, in my opinion, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oregon, and Georgia. I think those are the 5 best teams in college football this year, and it is what it is. But guess what? At some point, you're going to have to get over those humps. So hopefully that is next year.
Here's hoping. But again, 13 wins, 13-3. You can't be mad at it.
No, not at all. Guys, please join us every Monday night live at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We will be here recapping this game, talking about, looking back, like Gerald said, talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever you want to say about this Texas football season. Then we'll probably, talk about the future a little bit, who goes, who stays, who we'd like to see come back, stuff of that nature. So again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. And as always, guys, no matter what, horns up. Texas loses this one 28-14 to Ohio State. Thank you guys for joining us.
Welcome.